scripture is from 1 Peter chapter 2. So put away all malice and all deceit, and hypocrisy and envy and all slander. Like newborn infants, long for the pure spiritual milk, that by it you may grow into salvation. If indeed you have tasted that the Lord is good. As you come to him, a living stone, rejected by men, but in the sight of God, chosen and precious. You yourselves, like living stones, are being built up as a spiritual house, to be a holy priesthood, to offer spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. For it stands in Scripture, behold, I am laying in Zion a stone, a cornerstone chosen and precious, and whoever believes in him will not be put to shame. So the honor is for you who believe, but for those who do not believe, the stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone, and a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense. They stumble because they disobeyed the word, as they were destined to do. But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Once you were not a people, but now you are God's people. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. I want to add these two verses. Beloved, I urge you as sojourners and exiles to abstain from the passions of the flesh which wage war against your soul. Keep your conduct among the Gentiles honorable, so that when they speak against you as evildoers, that they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day of visitation. Here ends our reading. This is our lectionary text for the New Testament for today. And there's kind of three different pieces of this scripture. There's the royal priesthood, the cornerstone, and then the beginning and the end have these parts that encourage us to stay away from several different things. Verse 1 is a connector verse. Chapter 1 talks about who God is and what God has done for you and for me. That we are called to be holy. That we have this living hope. And then it goes into this talking about spiritual food. So it answers the question, I have this hope, I have this call to be holy, but now what? Now what do I do? Well, it talks about putting away earthly and worldly things such as malice and deceit, and hypocrisy and envy and slander. Now those are some pretty long words. So what is malice? A feeling of hostility and strong dislike and a desire to harm. That last one, desire to harm, may not be you, but I don't know about you, but there are some days I have a strong dislike for a person. Tells us to put that away. To put away deceit, trickery, or treachery, telling somebody one thing and meaning another. To put away hypocrisy, the hiding of what's really inside with the appearance of virtue. Envy, a grudging regard for the advantages seen to be enjoyed by others. And slander, to speak against or to speak evil of. We are to put away those things. Again, this is what we are to do now. And why do we do that? Well, we talked a little bit with the kids about what a cornerstone is. The foundation, the one that is the base, that if you take this one out, This one, right here. Everything else falls over. That back in. Right? Jesus is our cornerstone, the base of it. And then it goes on in verse 2 and 3 to talk about this spiritual milk. We have tasted, just like a newborn infant. I don't know about you, but when I see kids who are hungry, especially when they're young enough where they can't speak, there isn't any way. When they are hungry, they scream and cry because they want that food. I see you moms. You get me? Those young moms that this is so recent, right? Dads too. You know that when your kid is hungry, they are going to let you know. So what does this have to do? Oh, sorry, he's not so young, but you know, right? A man apparently used to scream and cry because he was hungry. Just yesterday? But it's so true. Okay, so if we apply that to our spiritual life, right? Because we know that mom's food is good, right? That's why it's because mom's food is good, right? Or the food that we've tasted is good. It's not bitter, it's not like mushy broccoli all the time, right? Good food is what we've got. So when we talk about, so Christ is the cornerstone, and God has done things in our life. Because we have tasted that, we are hungry for it again. Right? We think about that. We've tasted and we've seen what God has done, and that makes us hungry again. Think about your favorite food that I don't know. Just think about your favorite food. How does it taste? How does it smell? Who made it? If it's a warm food, that's steam rising off of it, perhaps the butter melting over it. Can you feel it in your glands starting to drool? Right? There's a physical reaction to this. And I wonder if as spiritual people, we have lost that feeling with the cornerstone. That if we have forgotten what God has done for us, and that no longer affects our life. You see, we are also living stones. So as we take out these pieces and generations, just had one that was really loose. That one. Right? As we take these pieces, our generations are built up as living stones. Over and over. But if this piece isn't down here, it all falls apart. Now, if we think about this part being the church, as in the whole church, and each of us as stones, as priesthood of believers, is another way to put it. We often become stumbling blocks for one another. So often I hear, well, the reason I don't believe in God has nothing to do with God, but it is the people that follow God that trip me up. They become instead of a living stone, a stumbling block to me. And often it's because we hear, or we talk about church as something I have to go to again. Not I get to go to. Or we talk about, well, I read my Bible because I'm supposed to. Not because it is the spiritual milk that feeds us. And by doing that, we become a stumbling block to others. Now that sounds a little harsh, but it's true. Verse 10, it says, once you were not a people, but now you are God's people. And once you have not received mercy, but now you receive mercy. And it goes on to verse 12, and it says, so that when they try to speak against you, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. I have this living hope, and I'm called to be holy. And now I need to throw off the things that hinder not just me, but other people, the malice and deceit, the hypocrisy, the envy, the slander. Abstain from passions of the flesh, which wage war against your soul. And it's not just for you, because it does the things that, for you, it keeps you from that spiritual milk, but it's also for others. And say, well, Pastor, but that's your job, right? You are the pastor. You are the face of this church. You are the only one that really matters. Well, it's not quite true. Verse 9 says, but you, all of you, it's a plural, you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of darkness and into marvelous light. This is not just a pastor's job. This is a believer's job. We often give the person who's standing up here the title of priest, rabbi, teacher, preacher, whatever it is. And it's a really heavy mantle to wear, but when you label this person as only priest, you eliminate the need for the priesthood of believers. Because you are chosen and you are called. You are the ones that are to share what God has already done in your life with others so that they might know the spiritual milk. Have you ever been somewhere and been eating as a group and had a really good meal? You know, yours, and everyone, you're like, oh, how was your meal? And they're like, it's okay. And you're like, my meal is so good. Here, want to try a piece? Want to try a piece of the cornerstone? That is what our spiritual faith should be like. No, it's okay. But here, let me share with you the best parts of it. The juicy, tender steak part of it. The melted butter over the mashed potatoes. The sweet cherry cheesecake at the end. I think as a church, and not just our church, but as a church, big church, we have forgotten that part. But you are each called to be living stones, to be ones that share upon the foundation of the cornerstone. The goal is that they may see your good works. They may see what you have done, what you are saying, what you are sharing, and that they might know the cornerstone, that they might glorify their Father in heaven. So that's your challenge for this week. What am I missing? What do I need to do to taste and see what God has done for me? Taste and see. Do I need to spend a little more time with God? Do I need to stop at the end of the day and pay attention to what God has done each day? So that's the taste and see part. And then the sharing part is sharing those things that God has done with others around him. Otherwise, if we don't do that and we don't rely on the cornerstone, it all falls apart. It's your challenge. I want to end as a response hymn with that. It's number 276. Christ is made the sure foundation. So let us stand together and sing.